We sure are rolling. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode number 15 of the Chasing the Racing podcast. It is Monday, January 13th, 2020. My name is Kyle Young, and I'm here to provide you with racing entertainment, coverage, and discussion for the next little bit of your time. Glad to be here. Hope all of you guys had yourselves a fantastic week. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you're able to find something to do over this racing week. Lots of things to talk about today. Pretty cool that things getting right back to business. Lots of news and different things to talk about in that part of the spectrum. Not a ton of different racing events going on this past week. We'll have a lot more to talk about as far as actual racing goes next week, as tonight is the start of I think it's the 34th annual Lucas Oil Chili Bowl Midget Nationals in Tulsa, Oklahoma, inside the Tulsa Expo Center. They named that little track the Tulsa Expo Raceway. So, pretty cool that we've gotten to that point. So next week's show, we'll definitely have a lot of awesome live racing action to chit-chat about. But tonight we'll discuss a little bit, and then it'll be another very busy, newsworthy-like show for the majority of it. So why don't we just dive right in and get to it? Couple racing things to chit-chat about this week. We're going to start things off in the two-wheeled racing world. Monster Energy Supercross taking to the racetrack for the second time in 2020 this past weekend in the Dome at America's Center in St. Louis, Missouri. Justin Barcia coming off the season opener last week in Anaheim, looking to double it up, try to build something in the points lead. Justin Cooper getting it done in the 250s last week. Also looking to do the same in that division. So in the 250 main event, since they ran first, it was pretty much a booty spanking event. Austin Forkner came out strong last week. He had a very good performance in Anaheim. Made a mistake while leading, and it ultimately cost him the win, and ended up he finished in third, got penalized for cutting the course, resulted in a fifth place finish. So he was looking to rebound off of that and did so extremely well in what would be his hometown race. His home race, I should say. He's from Richards, Missouri, which is on the opposite side of the state from where St. Louis is, but still within Missouri, so he considers it his home race. It was a flawless main event for Austin. He got out front, took the whole shot, and he absolutely never looked back from that point on. He led the entirety of the event, took home the victory, and defeated the winner of last week's event in the process to do so. Justin Cooper ended up finishing in second. Brendan Hartranft was third. Alex Martin fourth. Jet Lawrence rounding out the top five. Jet Lawrence had himself a pretty good performance. The young 16-year-old from Florida ran into some issues throughout the feature, as well as his teammate Christian Craig. Christian crashed out and didn't end up coming back after his crash, and ended up finishing last. Some type of mechanical problem for Jet dropped him back to fifth, but still able to salvage a top five out of it. Jacob Hayes was sixth, Luke Clout seventh, Mitchell Oldenburg was eighth, Carson Brown ninth, and Derek Drake rounded out the top 10 finishers for the 250 Supercross main event. Looking at their point standings now after two races, it is still Justin Cooper up on top of the points lead, but he only has a 5-point lead over Austin Forkner in second place. Brendan Hartranft is third. He is 12 points out of the lead. Dylan Ferrandis, the defending 250 West Series champion, is fourth, 15 points out of the lead. Alex Martin rounds out the top five with 32 points, putting him 17 points out of the lead. Jet Lawrence is sixth. Actually, he's tied with Alex Martin for that fifth spot, but being shown in sixth also with 32 points. Jacob Hayes is seventh at 29 points, 20 points out of the lead. Derek Drake is eighth with 28 points, 21 back. Christian Craig in ninth Well, actually, there's a technical four-way tie for ninth place with Christian Craig, Michael Moseman, Mitchell Oldenburg, and Carson Brown. Each of them have 22 points, which is good for 27 points behind Justin Cooper, in the race lead. So there's a quick rundown of your points for the 250s. Over in the 450s, a little bit more of a competitive race than what the 250s were, but not really by much. Justin Barcia, as I said at the top of the show, looking to go back-to-back after his second consecutive season-opening win in Anaheim last week. Got himself off to a great start, ran the majority of the race inside the top 5. But Ken Roczen was the man to beat on Saturday night. Roczen had a bit of a lackluster start to the season last week. I think he ended up finishing 6th. Didn't really seem too happy about that performance. Kind of struggled with the handling of the bike all night long that night. But this past week was the total opposite. He was flawless. Had a lot of speed, looked extremely comfortable. Got out in the lead pretty early on in the race. Took it over on lap 2. Zach Osborne was able to get the whole shot and led for the first lap in a little bit. Kind of surprised me at how well Zach ran, because he really wasn't worth mentioning at all throughout the feature in Anaheim. So to see him in the top 5 and consistently race there all night long was a bit of a surprise based off of the first night. But no, Ken Roczen, he got himself out to the lead and just dominated with it. It didn't dominate quite as much as what Austin Forkner did. Ken failed to lead a single lap as Austin led the entirety of it. But for the first time in nearly 3 years, Ken Roczen got himself to the top step of the podium, picked up the victory in St. Louis. Justin Barcia finished in second. Great 2 weeks for him to open up the season with a win last week and a second this week. Jason Anderson improved on a 5th place finish last week. He finished in 3rd. Eli Tomac was 4th as Zach Osborne dropped to a 5th place finish. Malcolm Stewart was 6th. Adam Cianciarulo comes home with a 7th place finish. He was inside the top 5 but crashed late in the going, lost a few positions, and had to salvage a 7th place effort. Justin Brayton was 8th, Blake Baggett 9th, and Aaron Plessinger rounded out the top 10 finishers for them in their points standings with a very strong and just about near perfect 2 weeks. Justin Barcia is up on top of the point standings. He has a 6-point lead over Ken Roczen in second. Adam Cianciarulo is tied for 3rd with Jason Anderson. The two of them are 10 points back, and then you have Eli Tomac in 5th place with 35 points, which puts him 14 points back. Blake Baggett is 6th in points. He is 16 points out. Cooper Webb, the defending series champion, in 7th place. He was riding sick this past week. Did not have a very strong performance in St. Louis at all. 7th place in the points. He is 17 points out of the lead. Malcolm Stewart is 8th, 18 points out. Justin Brayton 9th, 19 points out. And Zach Osborne rounds out the top 10. He is 22 points out of the lead. The series will head back to Anaheim this upcoming weekend for their A2 event. Different track configuration, but they will be heading back out to Anaheim, California to compete for the second of 2 times this year. Typically how it goes for Supercross, you run 2 Anaheim races in close proximity to each other at the start of the year, and then they get all crazy and start traveling around. I was kind of paying attention to their schedule, and I'm not going to lie, I wish that things would work out a little bit better in my favor, because they are racing in Tampa, Florida on February 15th, which I will be down in Florida at that time. I will be down there for the NASCAR, start of the NASCAR season. But I don't really know what the gap is between Daytona and where they will be racing. Maybe I need to do a little bit of research into that and hit up that Supercross race instead. I think I'm planning, or my initial plan is to go to Bubba Raceway Park that night after the Xfinity race. Maybe I should change it up and try to sprint down to Tampa for that Supercross race. We'll see, though. We'll see. I'll have to do some research and figure it all out. But because I was kind of thinking about maybe doing the Foxborough race in April, but there's a Rush Crate Late Model Series event that goes on during that week and weekend. They had their Battle of the Bay Speed Week, and there are a couple. I've never done the entirety of that week. There are a few tracks that they race at that I have never been to before, so I was kind of thinking about doing that this year, which would be the same day. The last race for that is the same day as the Supercross race in Foxborough, where my Patriots play. I went to that race 2 years ago. Really enjoyed it. So we'll see how well that goes. But just some of my thoughts on how I'm going to tackle the Supercross season. But I'm extremely happy that Supercross is back. I always look forward to the beginning of the year because of Supercross. And we've been treated to a couple good races to start off the year, to say the least. The other racing event that I would like to cover here to start off tonight's show is the Wild West Shootout that happened at the Arizona Speedway this past weekend. Looking things over... Ooh. Oh, okay. I got confused for a second. Because I see all these dates for the Wild West Shootout, and there's more to come. All of these, the majority of these dates still haven't happened yet, so I didn't realize that there was racing more. So, 6 nights of racing for the 14th annual Wild West Shootout. The first 2 took place this past weekend. Sorry about that. The first 2 races happened this past weekend. So we'll give you a rundown as to what raced and who did what. It looks like that they had 3 different divisions competing this past weekend. For those that are not familiar, the Arizona Speedway, located in Santan Valley, Arizona. The 3 divisions that competed were the Dirt Track Bank Super Late Models presented by Black Diamond Race Cars, the Mesilla Valley Transportation / Border Tire and Arizona Differential Modifieds, and the RHRSwag.com Barnett Harley Davidson X Mods. So, running through the results page from top to bottom, in the Dirt Track Bank Super Late Models presented by Black Diamond Race Cars, they had 6 groups of cars for qualifying. They ran 6 different heat races. The top 3 would advance to the A main, and everybody else goes back to the B main. Of those B mains, they ran 2 B mains, 12 laps apiece, and they took the top 3 cars from those B mains, and then they had a Pro Power Dash before they ran the A main. The A main consisted of a 40-lap feature. This is the first night. This is Saturday night. Saturday, January 11th, for the Super Late Models. They ran their 40-lap feature. Took 25 cars to the feature, and let's see here real quick. We had 7, 7, 8, 8, 8. So 8 times 4 is 32, plus another 14. So we had 46 Super Late Models in attendance for the Wild West Shootout this past Saturday. They took 25, and in that 40-lap feature, the man to strike first was Brian Shirley. Brian Shirley picking up the Super Late Model victory for the first night of the 14th annual Wild West Shootout at Arizona Speedway. Frank Hackenast Jr. was second. Ricky Thornton Jr. third. Brennan Shepard fourth. Chris Simpson was fifth. Chase Younghand sixth. Ricky Weiss was seventh. Johnny Scott eighth. Jimmy Mars ninth. And Garrett Alberson rounding out the top 10 finishers. In the Mesilla Valley Transportation / Border Tire and Arizona Differential Modifieds, they went straight to heat races. There's no qualifying results here. And says that the top 16 in passing points advanced to the A main, and then everybody else went to the B mains. They ran 4 heat races, 8 laps apiece, and then 2 B main events. Top 4 from each of the B mains would go to the feature. The feature, the A main, 25 laps in distance. They started 24 race cars for that. And in total, they had 11, and 10. So 43 cars for the modifieds. And in that 25-lap feature event, it was Lucas Schott. It's basically spelled Scott with an H in between the C and the O. So I'm going to say it's Lucas Schott. If I'm wrong, I apologize. Jake Gallardo finished in second. Dustin Strand was third. Tyler Peterson fourth. Mitch Keeter in fifth. Zachary Madrid sixth. Joe Duvall seventh. Calvin Iverson eighth. Chad Olson ninth. And Dave Kane rounding out the top 10 there. The third and final division on the night, the RHRSwag.com Barnett Harley Davidson X Modifieds. They also did passing points, top 16 in passing points to the A, everybody else to the B. They ran 4 heat races as well, with 11, 10, 10, and 10, so they had 41 cars in their division. 2 B main events, top 4 in the B mains would transfer on to the A main, and they ran 20 laps in their A main, and that feature event was won by Brock Gronwald. Lance Schill finished in second. Skeeter Esty was third. Brian Cackles in fourth. Lucas Rodden in fifth. Grant Hall sixth. Cole Searing seventh. Troy Hovey eighth. Cole Hogland in ninth. And Chris Jackson rounding out the top 10. They started 24 of those 41 cars. So there's your top 10 results for night number 1 of the Wild West Shootout happening at the Arizona Speedway this past weekend. Chit-chatting about night number 2, which was last night in Arizona. Checking out the results here. We had let's see. Looks like the same exact 3 divisions competing once again. I don't really know if they're changing things up between all 6 races. I would think maybe, but don't quote me on it. So we'll give you the rundown for night number 2, starting off once again with the Dirt Track Bank Super Late models presented by Black Diamond Race Cars. They had... Oh, they did this in opposite order. They put the feature up at the top. Okay, then. So, 10, 10, 11, 11. In qualifying, 10, 10, 11, 11. 42 cars for night number 2, so I think they dropped a couple. 4 heat races apiece, 8 laps the distance. They had a 6-lap Pro Power Dash, and then 2 B features. It's not giving me as much information as it did night number 1, so I don't really know about all the transfers and stuff. But either way, they had 25 cars. 25 cars compete in the feature for 40 laps in distance once again. And this one went to the 2-time and defending World of Outlaws Morton Buildings Late Model Series champion, Brandon Shepard. Ricky Weiss, he just picked up his first career win in that series last week at the Vado Speedway Park. He finished in second. Bobby Pierce, the smooth operator, finishing third. Chase Younghands fourth. Brian Burkhofer rounding out the top 5, with Chris Simpson in sixth. Brian Shirley seventh. Mike Spatola in 8th, Terry Phillips 9th, and Frank Heckenass Jr. rounding out your top 10 finishers. Scrolling down into the Mesilla Valley Transportation / Border Tire Modifieds presented by Arizona Differential. They ran another 25-lap feature event. They had 4 heat races, 10, 10, 10, and 11. So 41 cars for that division on Saturday night. 4 8-lap heat races, 2 12-lap B mains, and 24 cars starting the 25-lap A main. Rodney Sanders picked up the victory in that division. Lucas Schott was second after the win on Saturday, Tyler Wolff finished in 3rd, Dustin Stray in 4th, Matt Gilbertson in 5th, Jake O'Neill 6th, Travis Sawyer in 7th, Kelly Esty in 8th, Calvin Iverson 9th, and Jake Gallardo rounding out your top 10 finishers. And then in the RHRSwag.com X Mods presented by Barnett Harley Harledy? No, that's got to be Barnett Harley Davidson. Must be a typo. They ran for 25 laps last night. They had They had 23 cars out on the track for hot laps, 4 heat races at 8 laps apiece, two 10-lap B features, and then the 25-lap A main. They ended up taking everybody for this feature. They started 24 cars, so there must have been a car that didn't make hot laps. Well, no, that's not right. Because they ran B features, so why would they take everybody? They had 10, 10, 10, and 10. Or 11, right there. So 10, 10, 10, 11. That's 41 cars. 41 cars out on the racetrack for the X Mods. And their 25-lap feature was won by Josh Kane, who had to come from the 8th place position on the starting grid. Clint Johnson from 10th finished in 2nd. Lance Schill was 3rd. Mark Smith 4th. Grant Hall in 5th. Skeeter Esty in 6th. Chris Jackson 7th. Jess Breck in 8th. Tyler Meckel in 9th. And Mike Striegel rounding out the top 10 in the X-Mod feature on Sunday night. So there's your rundown for the first 2 nights of the 14th Annual Wild West Shootout. That happened at the Arizona Speedway this past weekend. Their remaining 4 events will happen on Wednesday, January 15th, and then Friday through Sunday, January 17th, 18th, and 19th. So a little bit of dirt track racing action going on out west here this past weekend. So that's really all that we've got for the race results to discuss. We'll jump into our news portion of the show now, and lots of things to tackle this week. Unfortunately, we do have to start things off on yet another unfortunate note. We have lost yet another racing competitor this past weekend. And that is veteran Dakar Rally rider Paulo Goncalves. He passed away after a crash on Sunday's 7th stage of the 2020 event in Saudi Arabia, the Dakar Rally. This is from an article on motorsport.com that just gives a little bit of insight as to what had happened. I was just reading something about a video that was on there. It says Goncalves, 40, was contesting his 13th Dakar for Indian manufacturer Hero and was lying 46th overall as the rally resumed following Saturday's rest day. During Sunday's 546-kilometer Riyadh Wadi Al Dawasir test, I'm sorry if I butchered that, the Portuguese rider suffered a crash at the 276-kilometer mark at 10:16 a.m. local time. A medical helicopter was dispatched, and Goncalves was found unconscious, having gone into cardiac arrest. He was airlifted to Leyla Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. He is the first competitor to have died contesting the Dakar since Michael Hernick in 2015. A little bit of information about Paulo Goncalves. Goncalves won numerous motocross and enduro titles in his native Portugal either side of the turn of the century and made his Dakar debut in 2006, finishing 25th on his first attempt. Cross-country competition soon became his primary focus, and he broke into the Dakar top 10 by 2009 in the first South America-based edition of the marathon. 2 years later, having swapped a Honda for a BMW, he ended a decade-long stage win drought for the Bavarian Marquis, but ended up dropping out of the marathon through injury. In 2012, he was now riding under the banner of the then BMW-owned Husqvarna, but his hopes, a career-best Dakar finish, were dashed by a 6-hour penalty for receiving outside assistance, something the team ardently denied. The year after, he repeated his best finish of 10th in the Dakar, but also clinched the FIM Cross Country World Championship for Speedbrain, the German organization that had operated Husqvarna's program before the brand's acquisition by KTM. Ahead of the 2014 Dakar, Goncalves and his longtime teammate Joan Barreta followed Speedbrain into the fold of Japanese manufacturer Honda, but the Portuguese rider's first rodeo with Honda ended in disappointment, his bike burning up on the 5th stage. But the rest of the year brought a good season in the Cross Country World Championship with an Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge win proving the highlight before Goncalves mounted his first proper challenge for Dakar victory in 2015. Goncalves headed Honda's efforts, finishing as runner-up to Dakar legend Mark Coma and staking a claim to one of the main threats to Austrian manufacturer KTM's unbeaten streak in the legendary marathon. He took on the cusp of doing so in 2016, leading the event into the rest day, only for a combination of a crash, a mechanical issue, and a hefty penalty to put paid to his aspirations. He only finished 6th the year after and skipped the 2018 Dakar entirely after an ill-timed training accident left him with a shoulder injury. Late in 2018, Goncalves crashed in national competition and suffered a fractured spleen that required surgery, but he recovered sufficiently in time for the 2019 Dakar. Yet his time with Honda in the legendary race would come to a low-key end as he crashed out just 5 days into the event. By then, Speedbrain was working with Indian manufacturer Hero, and for 2020, it pulled off a coup by reuniting with Goncalves, who joined the developing project to spearhead its roster alongside his brother-in-law, Joaquim Rodriguez. Admitting he sought, quote, extra motivation, unquote, from the switch, Goncalves was encouraged by outings in Morocco and the Silkway Rally, and finished in the top 10 for 3 consecutive days prior to the mid-rally rest day, before tragically losing his life after the competition resumed. So, a very unfortunate circumstance that happened yesterday in the Dakar Rally. 40-year-old Paulo Goncalves losing his life in a crash. Wishing nothing but the best for Paulo's friends, family, and fellow competitors during this extremely difficult time. And I would like to personally thank Paulo for his dedication, his participation, and his passion for the world of motorsports. Paulo, may you rest in the most glorious peace. Lots of news in the NASCAR world this past week. NASCAR's been kind of quiet as of late as they went through the holidays, but now that everything's back into the normal time of the off-season, and we are now into 2020, the news ramped up very quickly. The first thing to talk about in the NASCAR world is the new pit stop rules that are going to be happening in select Xfinity and Truck Series races. Now, I was a little bit confused with all this stuff when it first came out. It took me a couple reads through to kind of understand it to its entirety, but now I kind of understand it, and hopefully I'll be able to address this the right way to all of you guys. So I'm reading this from the NASCAR.NBCSports.com website, an article that was posted straight from there. It says that NASCAR will implement new pit stop rules for select Xfinity and Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series races in 2020, the sanctioning body revealed last Tuesday. The rules will be in place for most Xfinity and truck races that do not compete with the Cup Series at the same track on the same weekend. Here are the new rules for the select Xfinity and truck races this season. All right, so here we go. Get down your pen and paper. Hopefully you can follow along. The field is frozen when the caution is displayed. Stage breaks will have a full pit cycle, 2 opportunities to pit. For non-stage breaks, there will be a full pit cycle, 2 opportunities to pit. There also could be an optional quickie yellow, 1 opportunity to pit. All right? Caution comes out, field is frozen. Whether it is a stage break or a non-stage, stage breaks, full pit cycle, 2 opportunities to pit. If it's a non-stage break, you could either have a full pit cycle with 2 opportunities to pit, or it could be a quickie yellow with only 1. The team roster will consist of 8 crew members at these events. The pit crew, 4 to service the car, 1 fueler, and 1 driver assist, must come from among those 8 team members on the roster. This is a way to help teams save money since they won't need to pay for the services of a pit crew that is not a part of their team roster. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Instead of paying for an over-the-wall pit crew, you will have 8 people on your team roster that will be designated for crew members for these events. 4 people to service the car, 1 fueler, 1 driver assist, and then I'm assuming 2 alternates in case something were to happen. The pit stop must be completed within a designated time period. That time will be determined later. So, in listening to this on NASCAR radio, basically this designated pit period is going to be a lot like the damaged vehicle policy. You have 6 minutes to get your car fixed. Let's say you have 1 minute to make a pit stop. With the field being frozen, having a designated time, you have to get your pit stop done within that time period, but there isn't necessarily a massive rush to get on and off pit road like you see in most races now. On an oval track, this is where things can get a little funky. On an oval track, teams may add fuel and change 2 tires per pit stop. So if you are running an oval race, you are allowed to take tires and fuel the car in the same pit stop, but you can only do 2 tires per stop. So if you want to take 4 tires on a caution, you have to make 2 pit stops. On a road course event, teams may add fuel or change 4 tires per pit stop. So for road course races, there is no and. You can either do fuel or tires. You cannot do both. And you can only do those per pit stop. That came out really lame. So if you wanted, like, let's say you took a 4-tire pit stop once, you still want to get fuel, you would have to make the second pit stop to take the other service. So for the oval races, if you're looking to do 4 tire stops, it's going to require 2 pit stops. If you're looking to do both fuel and tires on a road course race, that is what is going to do 2 pit stops. You could either make a 2-tire stop or a 4-tire stop. The amount of tires that you make, that you change on a road course pit stop, it doesn't matter. It's just the differentiation of taking fuel only or tires only. Little funky there, but hopefully you got that down. NASCAR stated that the following penalties will be issued for violations. So these are the penalties, or you will be issued these penalties for these violations. Cars will start at the tail end of the field if they exceed the time limit on pit road. So if you go longer than what you're supposed to, you go to the back. If a car is involved in an incident, the team will be allowed to change 4 tires at once to avoid damaging the vehicle, but it will start at the tail end of the field. So there are exceptions to where you will be able to change 4 tires. You just have to take a penalty and start at the back of the field. A car will start at the tail end of the pits, or at the tail end if it pits other than on the designated lap. So you have designated times for when you're able to pit. So if you pit too early, pit too late, you start at the back. There will also be 2-lap penalties, and these 2-lap penalties will be for the following violations. If you change 4 tires and add fuel on any pit stop, so that would be for ovals only. If you change tires under green, unless it is approved by NASCAR for damage. So during the green flag racing for these races, you're not allowed to pit. You're not allowed to change tires under green. You can pit for fuel, but you cannot change tires. The only way that you are allowed to change tires under green is if it is approved by NASCAR. So let's say you spun out, but the caution didn't come out, or you had a bad pit stop, there's a vibration, you need a loose wheel, you need to come in and pit, then NASCAR could approve it and you'd be able to do so. Or if you perform a 4-tire stop on any pit stop, that is for oval races only, because the oval races you're only allowed to take 2 tires at a time. So if you perform a 4-tire stop on any pit stop, you will be issued a 2-lap penalty. Now it only says here, it says that the first one there, change 4 tires and add fuel on any pit stop. That's a violation. But, okay. All right. Yeah, never mind. Forget that I said that. I was confusing myself on something. So, on ovals, it's either add fuel and change only 2. On the road course, it's fuel or 4 tires. So there is no scenario where you're allowed to change 4 tires and add fuel on one single pit stop. So if you do that, you get a 2-lap penalty. And then the order of the restarts for the cars, and how you line up for the restart since the field is frozen. Anybody that does not pit, they lead the field. The cars that made 1 pit stop will follow that. and then behind the 1 pit stop cars will be the 2 pit stop cars, and then behind the 2 pit stop cars, you'll have the free pass vehicle, the wave around vehicles, and then the penalty vehicles. So it's a lot of information, kind of a little confusing to just take in and listen to, but once you kind of get a bit more of a sense for it, it does make a little bit more sense. Now, I'm not necessarily sure if I totally agree with everything that's going on here. They've been saying that this is the number one reason for doing this is to increase the competition, and then kind of a secondary reason is to help save the teams money, so that way they don't have to pay for these pictures. It does seem a little bit funky. I do understand it in its entirety. I would like to see it played out before I make a full judgment on what I think of it. Other than the fact that I think it's just a little bit funky. These races, as previously mentioned, will be for the standalone races, which are the following. In the Xfinity Series, you will see this at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course on May 30th, both Iowa Speedway races on June 13th and August 1st, and at Road America on August 8th. The truck races, you will see this at Iowa Speedway on June 12th, Worldwide Technology Raceway, which was formerly known as Gateway, on August 21st, and Canadian Tire Motorsport Park on September 6th. So this is only going to happen for 7 races in those 2 combined series. A lot of people were freaking out, thinking that it was ridiculous. Very small sample size of races that this is going to happen. Normal pit rules will be happening for the majority of the season. So I don't think there's any issue with at least trying this. If they were to just throw this in and all of a sudden do this for the majority, if not all the races, then yes, I would have a problem with it because we don't know if this works or not. Trying this new format for just a small number of races, we'll get to see if it works. If it does, we'll probably see it happen more often. If it doesn't, I'm sure they're going to scrap it and reorganize things or try something different or just stick with it. I don't really think they're going to stick with it or stick with the normality. I kind of feel like something's going to change, make a permanent change at some point in the future. What that will be, we don't know. A couple exceptions. The truck race at Eldora already has special rules regarding pit stops, so none of this has anything to do with that race. And then the Truck Series race, June 5th at Texas Motor Speedway, it is a standalone race, but it will be a normal pit stop contested event, so it will not have these. That is the only standalone event that will have normal pit rules and procedures. So a little bit funky to kind of to take in and deal with. It'll be a while before we see it. It will debut at the end of May at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in the Xfinity Series. I do think it's a little strange. I understand it. I understand why they're going to do it, but I would like to see it played out in person or just played out in action before I decide to make a full-blown decision on whether I like it or I don't. So hopefully not too many people will freak out about it, and we'll be able to relax a little bit with this change. The ARCA Menards Series West, their schedule has been announced for 2020. We know what the East schedule is. We know what the big ARCA Menards Series schedule is, and now we will know what the ARCA Menards Series West schedule is. Their season will kick off Thursday, February 20th at the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and then from there they will travel to Irwindale Speedway on March 28th, Douglas County Speedway on May 16th, Colorado National Speedway on June 6th, Sonoma Raceway June 13th, Evergreen Speedway August 8th, Meridian Speedway August 29th, All-American Speedway October 10th, Kern County Raceway Park on October 24th, and Phoenix Raceway for their season finale on November 6th. That is a 10-race schedule for the 2020 ARCA Menards Series West. Once again, kicking off Thursday, February 20th at the Bullring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And then their season finale will be during the championship weekend for the Big 3 National Series for NASCAR at Phoenix Raceway on Friday, November 6th. As we've talked about with ARCA in the past, very much looking forward to how ARCA will do this year with all the new changes. That it really should be a fun series to watch, and hopefully these new changes will be successful. We're going to stick with ARCA here for a little while. We got a couple driver announcements in the ARCA Menards Series this past week. The first is from Thad Moffitt. Thad Moffitt is going to race for DGR Crosley in the General Tire 200 at Daytona International Speedway on Saturday, February 8th. Yes, that's right. Saturday, February 8th. 19-year-old Trinity, North Carolina native, Thad Moffitt, racing for DGR Crosley in the General Tire 200 at Daytona International Speedway on February 8th in the ARCA Menards Series. For those that don't know, Thad Moffitt, I believe, is the grandson. Yes, grandson of Richard Petty. He's made some races in ARCA before. I think he might has also ran some trucks, but hasn't really landed anything super full-time in a little bit. But he will start off his season at Daytona for the ARCA Menards Series opener. Some of his thoughts on the announcement, he is quoted here in this DGRCrosley.com article saying, quote, "Daytona is a very special place for my family. I had the opportunity to race there last year in the ARCA Menards Series and can't wait to go back. Between the experience I've gained throughout the course of the season and the talent within the DGR Crosley organization, I feel confident that we will have a strong showing," unquote. He also actually added on by saying, quote, "Performance Plus Richard Petty Motor Oil was developed to continue the winning heritage of the Petty family, and I'm proud to be a part of it. The relationship that we are building is really special, and I'm looking forward to continuing that into 2020, unquote. So, Thad Moffitt sounding pretty confident and pretty happy about the ride. We'll kick off his year at Daytona, like a lot of us. He'll be in the General Tire 200 and the ARCA Menards Series. Another ARCA Menards Series announcement came out this past week, and that was for World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars Series competitor David Gravel. We talked about already that David Gravel is going to be competing in some truck races. Well, we now know when his very first stock car race is going to be, and it will also be in the General Tire 200 at Daytona for the ARCA Menards Series season opener. David Gravel is going to be competing with KBR Development. It will be a number 28 Chevrolet that he will be racing, and he got off to a nice start this past weekend. ARCA had their testing, and Gravel was part of the testing, and he was actually fastest in one of the sessions. So now, depending on what they did in those testing sessions, could have just been single car runs. More to say about the car than it is the driver. But for Gravel making his stock car start, his first start on pavement, and of this magnitude, it's still at least a little bit noteworthy. For those that are not familiar with David Gravel, as I just said, he's a veteran of the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series. 51 career victories. 12 of those came last year with Jason Johnson Racing. He was the winner of last year's Knoxville Nationals and finished third place in the points for the fourth consecutive year last year. Some of his comments, he said, quote, "It's a dream come true to be able to race at Daytona International Speedway. I can't thank everyone at KBR and GMS Racing enough for making this happen. I'm really excited for the next step in my career," unquote. Yeah, that's all that. Just scanning through the article there. So, David Gravel took to the track this past weekend as part of the test session, and will make his ARCA debut and his stock car debut in the General Tire 200 at Daytona International Speedway in the ARCA Menards Series. Taking a step up the ladder, we're moving on to trucks. We got a couple truck rides announced within, well, I think both of these actually came out today. We know what Todd Gilliland and Derek Kraus are going to be doing for 2020. Todd Gilliland, surprisingly, is not going to be racing with his father's team. He's actually going to Front Row Motorsports in 2020, and Front Row Motorsports is going to open up a truck team, and Todd Gilliland will race there. It was announced today. Front Row Motorsports, with a partnership with DGR Crosley, so I guess that's not overly surprising, will race full-time in the 2020 NASCAR Gainer RV and Outdoors Truck Series for Front Row Motorsports. This will be Todd's third full-time season in the trucks. He ran the last two seasons with Kyle Busch Motorsports. One victory, coming at the end of the year, last year at Martinsville, he has 12 top 5 finishes and 26 top 10 finishes in his career. He also has 20 wins in 53 starts in the NASCAR Can-Am Pro, now the ARCA Menards East and West Series. He picked up the championship 2 years in a row out west in 2016 and 17. Did not have the greatest of starts to his career with KBM. Finally did get to victory lane at the end of the season last year. Had some controversial words about that victory, but was still able to pull off a win and sort of ended his tenure at KBM with a somewhat high note. He will now make the transition over to Front Row Motorsports as they open up their first truck team and will be the pilot of that machine. Derek Kraus, as I said a few minutes ago, is also going to be making the move full-time to the trucks and will be doing so with a new organization. Bill McAnally announcing that he has partnered with Bill Hilgeman to form McAnally-Hilgeman Racing, and that will field the entry for Derek Kraus and the NASCAR Gainer RV and Outdoors Truck Series full-time in 2020. Derek Kraus, 18 years old. He is the 2019 NASCAR Can-Am Pro Series West champion with McAnally. He will drive that truck, the number 19 Toyota Tundra. Along with this announcement, they have formed an alliance with Hattori Racing Enterprises. Hattori Racing Enterprises is the team that Austin Hill currently races for, and the team that Brett Moffitt won his 2018 championship with. On the announcement, okay, I had to scroll up to find Derek's quotes. Derek said, quote, "Moving up to the truck series will be a big learning experience for me. I'm looking forward to continuing to work with Kevin Bellicourt and the team. It's going to be a fun year," unquote. Kraus has made some truck starts already. He is not going to be going into the season completely new, but this will be his first full-time effort. This past season's K&N West Series champion has had a lot of success in K&N West in both K&N, because I know he's run East races too. Has had a lot of success in K&N throughout the last few years, so it'll be fun to see him move up and see how well he can transition into the truck series full-time in 2020. Moving on to the Xfinity Series, JD Motorsports has a new driver for their number 4 Chevrolet Camaro, and that is going to be Colby Howard. Who? Colby Howard is the driver's name. This coming from KickingTheTires.net. JD Motorsports with Gary Keller continues to develop young talent, signing Colby Howard for the bulk of the 2020 NASCAR Xfinity Series season. Howard's season will begin with the 4th race of the season at Phoenix Raceway. PMG and the Project Hope Foundation will help the 18-year-old in his NASCAR Xfinity Series program. PMG most recently helped Ryan Repko make his NASCAR Xfinity Series debut in 2019. The car number and additional partners for Howard will be announced later, so he's not in the number 4 car. That was just a placeholder photo. He joins Jesse Little, who was previously announced to run the full season for JD Motorsports. Howard said, quote, "I'm really looking forward to starting this season with JDM. It's going to be a steep learning curve for sure with all the new tracks on my schedule, but I'm sure we can handle it. My goal is to go out there and learn as much as I possibly can, all while aiming for solid top 20 runs. This is a big step in my career, and I'm excited to show what I'm capable of," unquote. I think I saw that he's going to be racing 20 races this year. It doesn't really say that in the article, but I believe that's what I heard. Don't completely quote me on that. But it will be a part-time schedule. It is not a full-time schedule for Colby Howard, but he will be running the majority of those races in this year. So Colby Howard making the move to JD Motorsports in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, will not be racing full-time, going to be racing a good portion of the races, but he will be competing this year. He has competed in some NASCAR truck races already. He ran those races with Young's Motorsports. His best finish was 21st at Phoenix Raceway. And apparently he earned a NASCAR Xfinity Series license following his 24th place finish in the season finale at Homestead Miami Speedway. Howard also has 4 ARCA Menard Series starts. He earned a top 10 finish in all 4 of those starts with a career best 8th at Salem Speedway. At the local racing level, Howard has 3 runner-up point standing finishes in the track championship at Myrtle Beach Speedway, Montgomery Motor Speedway, and the Southeast Limited Late Model Series. He has 1 top 10 finish, a 9th place at Greenville Pickens Speedway in 3 Cars Late Model Stock Tour starts. So he is not unfamiliar with racing by any stretch of the imagination. Definitely the best opportunity for Colby Howard to show the world what he is made of. Moving up to the Cup Series now. Some awesome Cup Series news. We're starting off a handful of driver announcements. This one coming with Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain will be racing in this year's Daytona 500. He's going to do so with Spider Motorsports and their number 77 car, but it is being prepared by Chip Ganassi Racing. So it's very clear that Ross is still under that contract with Chip Ganassi Racing. Was not able to compete with them last year in the Xfinity Series due to DC Solar's business problems. But he will be competing in the Daytona 500 with a Chip Ganassi Racing prepared Spire Motorsports number 77 machine. He will also be racing in the Coca-Cola 600 in May in that same ride. So some awesome news for Ross Chastain. Ross is going to be competing full-time in 2020 for Colleague Racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and I absolutely expect him to be a title contender. So the Melon Man with some awesome news for the Cup Series for 2020. I don't really know if you want to call this a return because he hasn't skipped any races yet, but David Ragan's retirement will not be starting just yet. He will compete in this year's Daytona 500. He will be driving the number 36 Select Blinds Ford Mustang for Rick Ware Racing at Daytona International Speedway. Pretty cool to hear about. David's just always been one of those awesome guys, so even though it's just a quick little one-off run here, I get to see David Ragan run another Daytona 500. So awesome to hear that. It's basically going to look pretty similar to a Front Wheel Motorsports car, but it will be a Rick Ware Racing machine. Select Blinds, the sponsor, to back that effort of David Ragan. His retirement lasting such a long time, he's immediately back in the cockpit. So David Ragan go into the Daytona 500 with Rick Ware Racing in their number 36 Select Blinds Ford Mustang next month. That Daytona 500, by the way, is just 34 days away. We're closing in on it, baby. Colleague Racing, we just talked about them with Ross Chastain. They are going to attempt to make their very first Daytona 500 and their first ever NASCAR Cup Series race with the defending Coke Zero Sugar 400 winner, Justin Haley. Justin Haley going to pilot the Fraternal Order of Eagles number 16 Chevrolet for Colleague Racing for Daytona Speedweeks, going to try to make that team's first Daytona 500, their first Cup Series race. Justin Haley racing for Colleague Racing full-time in the Xfinity Series last year, going to do the same thing this year. So the fit is easy. It works out great. And he's the most recent winner in the Cup Series at Daytona. So why not try to get him to qualify for the 500? Pretty cool news for him. Hopefully it all works out. And Justin Haley will be making his first career Daytona 500 start in just 34 days. Alrighty, so that is going to take care of the majority of the NASCAR news that we have for tonight. A couple other related things, some coming up shortly, but we're going to do some more local, more regional type of news at the moment, and that starts off with Bubba Pollard. Bubba Pollard, in the news world this week, he is going to be competing for the first time in a modified in the new Smyrna World Series for Ryan Preece. This coming from RacedayCT.com. Spreading the gospel of modified racing is something NASCAR Cup Series driver Ryan Preece takes very seriously. The 29-year-old from Berlin climbed to the top of NASCAR's ranks by excelling for over a decade in modified racing. And since arriving as a full-time driver in the Cup Series before the 2019 season, Preece has regularly made sure to showcase on the national stage the fact that his roots are in modified racing. And when it comes to this year's World Series of Asphalt Stock Car Racing at New Smyrna Speedway, it will be Preece offering the chance to live out the modified life for one of the most well-known names nationally in short track racing. Preece will field a tour-type modified for Sonoma, Georgia driver Bubba Pollard, who is considered one of the most dominant forces in the late model/super late model racing world over the last decade nationally. Preece said the two struck up a relationship during the 2019 World Series at New Smyrna. Preece said, quote, "He was there last year running his super, and I was just talking to him here and there. I have a lot of respect for somebody like him because he's a racer. In my book, there's a certain definition for that. I just wanted to be able to put somebody like him in my race car and race against him and have him have the opportunity to drive a modified." You've got guys that represent different cars around the country. Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell, they're the dirt track, sprint car, and midget car representatives. And I come from modifieds. That's where I'm from. That's the part of the country where I'm from, and I want to let other people have their time of driving one or whatever it may be. I want to give that chance to people that I respect, and Bubba is one of those guys, and I'm looking forward to making it all happen. Unquote. The World Series runs February 7th through February 15th at New Smyrna, with tour-type modifieds on the schedule for 5 consecutive nights from February 10th through February 14th. Preece said the plan is to run Pollard in the tour-type modified car he owns for the February 10th 50-lap event, the February 11th 35-lap event, and the February 14th Richie Evans Memorial 100. Preece, who will begin his second season as a full-time driver in the NASCAR Cup Series with JTG Doherty Racing in the February 16th Daytona 500, will compete for the Ed and Connie Partridge-owned TS Haulers team in New Smyrna. Preece said he expects to run February 10th, February 11th, and in the John Blewett III Memorial 76 on February 12th. Preece said the possibility exists that Pollard could end up running all 5 tour-type modified events at New Smyrna Speedway. And on that, he said, quote, "It could be all the nights. If Monday and Tuesday are really good, we can run the week. It really just depends on the people, the parts, and how the week is going," unquote. So some cool news there in the in the regional short track world. Bubba Pollard, the late model and super late model standout, going to be going modified racing in the New Smyrna World Series of Asphalt Stock Car Racing next month in February. Speaking of Ryan Preece and modified racing, there was a photo tweeted out this past week of Kevin Harvick sitting in one of Ryan Preece's modifieds. We've got that photo right here for you. Ba-boom! There's Kevin Harvick chilling out inside one of Ryan's modifieds. Now, after some further investigation and knowing some more things about this, in this, it says that you may see him race at New Smyrna Speedway. That is not going to happen. There are no scheduled race dates for Kevin Harvick to race a modified race as of yet, but he is going to test that modified at Martinsville Speedway sometime next month. So that's pretty damn cool. There's been a lot of talk about Kevin Harvick running a modified race over these last few years. Getting himself seated in one. Now is the perfect opportunity since it's the off season. So should be interesting to see how that test goes for Kevin next month, and if it turns into some type of event later on down the future. Martinsville has a doubleheader with the modifieds in the Cup Series in May. Kevin has made remarks about wanting to race at Stafford Motor Speedway in Connecticut, so we'll see what comes of this. But there is a test session, no planned race date as of now, but at the very least, Kevin Harvick will be turning some laps in a Ryan Preece modified here in the near future. Moving on to the dirt racing world a little bit, we've got some rules changes announced for the World of Outlaws Morton Buildings Late Model Series. Droop rule has been announced. This is coming from racingnews.co. And it says that the droop rule is now enforced on the National Series. What's that, you ask? It's a rule that limits the amount of chassis jack on the left rear of the car. As drivers leave the pit area, the left side should be scraping, but it says scraping across the dirt. When they step on the gas, the left rear rolls forward and the entire left side is jacked skyward. A chain is attached to the rear axle and a point on the frame just above it. This chain limits how much the frame can travel away from the axle. This technique is rumored to first be introduced by Scott Bloomquist several years ago, as told by several teams in the pit area. He likely used it to keep his spoiler out of the air while rolling down the straightaway. The Droop rule was first introduced from a rule standpoint by Ray Cook. He brought the rule to the Southern Nationals Late Model Tour, a series that the Dirt Late Model driver owns. Ricky Weiss ran the first Dirt Late Model race in 2018 that featured the new Droop rule. After that, Weiss stated, quote, "I understand why he's doing it, but everybody needs to jump on board and nobody needs to," unquote. As of 2020, the Droop rule is now in place on 2 divisions, one being a national Dirt Late Model Tour. It goes on to say, why do we need a Droop rule? Teams have learned that the more lift they can get, the more the rear spoiler is in the air. When cars step on the gas, the rear end shifts and the chassis jacks higher than ever before. As a result, the downforce is also higher than ever. Beyond performance, there are safety concerns. As these cars jack, the entire left side of the car is well off the ground. That allows an opportunity for a competitor's nose to get under there and cause a possible rollover. The measurement is done in the pit area. Officials place a jack under the frame. They jack it until the left rear wheel is off the ground. From that point, they measure from the ground to the rear deck lid by the left side spoiler end plate. The new Dirt Late Model machines are designed to lift the left rear higher than ever. With this chain rule in place, older cars will suddenly become more competitive all over again. February 21st, 2020 is when the new rules go into place. The World of Outlaws Late Model Series will debut the Droop rule at Volusia Speedway Park in Barberville, Florida on February 12th, 2020. DARTcar owns the World of Outlaws Late Model Series. They also own UMP. It's likely this rule will be introduced to UMP sanctions like the UMP Summer National. So a little bit of a rules update going on for the World of Outlaws Morton Buildings Late Model Series, and there's actually a pretty good photo that kind of depicts this, the differences here. So I'm assuming that Ricky's car right here, well, yeah, because this is 2018. Well, I don't know about that, but it's at least 2019. So you can see the difference here. This is Ricky Weiss's car. You can't see my cursor. But the black number 7 car, that's Ricky Weiss. You can see how much different, how low the car is sitting to the ground, even though the body is, jacked over weight distribution. And then the white 49 here is Jonathan Davenport, and you can see the difference, how high his left side is off the ground. The tire completely hardcore off the ground. You might get a little bit. It looks like Ricky's left front is a little off, but a dramatic difference between the two. And the way that you see Ricky Weiss's car is what they are trying to shoot for with this rule change. So a little bit of a rules update for some of you tech guys, if you're interested in that kind of thing. Sticking with the late models, late model competitor Max Blair, he announced his plans for racing in Florida the next few weeks. Max is probably already heading down there. He will be competing in a practice session this upcoming Wednesday the 15th at Volusia Speedway Park, and then he's going to be racing at Volusia Thursday, January 16th through the 18th. He'll take a little bit of time off, and then he'll head to East Bay Raceway Park on Wednesday, January 29th, and then we'll be racing Thursday, January 30th through Saturday, February 1st. I know that East Bay and Volusia are still racing longer than that. That is all that is mentioned for his Florida plans as of right now. Not sure if that's going to change, if that's set in stone, but at the very least, Max Blair is going to be competing at the Volusia Speedway Park Wednesday, January 15th through Saturday, January 18th, and then at East Bay Raceway Park Wednesday, January 29th through Saturday, February 1st. Max is a crate and super late model driver up here in the Northeast, so any Northeast fans heading down to Florida will get to see him race, or if you're a Floridian race fan and know of him and a fan of him, you'll get to see him down south in the Sunshine State here starting this week. Some pretty cool sponsorship news coming from Big River Steel. They are going to be partnering with the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, Pro Pulling Series, and Team Lucas. This is coming from the lucasdirt.com website. It says Big River Steel, a leading flat-rolled steel producer, has agreed to a multi-year agreement to partner with Team Lucas as an official partner of the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series and the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League. Dave Stickler, the chief executive officer of Big River Steel, said, quote, "We are pleased to announce our relationship with Lucas Oil Products and Team Lucas for the 2020 race season. We enjoyed our first season as a motorsports sponsor last year and are looking forward to building on our experience. We're excited to cheer on the Clint Boyer race team and driver Josh Richards as well as we help advance motorsport racing," unquote. In addition to being a Team Lucas partner, Big River Steel will also be associated with the Clint Bowyer race team and driver Josh Richards on the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series in 2020. Josh Richards' impressive resume includes winning the Series Championship in 2017, being a runner-up in the Series Championship in 2018, and finishing third in the final Series point standings in 2019. Clint Bowyer race team is owned by NASCAR star Clint Bowyer. And then it just has a little plug. Scott Coleman, the manager of Coated Products at Big River Steel, said, quote, Team Lucas has a positive impact on grassroots racing across the country and in all different forms of motorsports. We are thrilled to go big in our partnership with Team Lucas, and we look forward to being part of the Clint Bowyer race team and supporting Josh Richards. Lucas Oil continues to improve grassroots racing for its passionate fans and growing the sport with their TV coverage, unquote. The Big River Steel partnership will include presenting sponsorship entitlements of the Clash at the Mag at Magnolia Motor Speedway in Columbus, Mississippi? MS, Mississippi, I think that is? Or is that MI? Now I need to find out. Columbus, MS. What state is that? Okay, it is Mississippi. Okay. Columbus, Mississippi, as part of the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series for the second year in a row. The Big River Steel partnership with Team Lucas also includes a presence and association with the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League and the Super Modified Tractor Division in 2020. The Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League will definitely emphasize the motto, Go Big, for Big River Steel, with the goal to get 4 Hemis, 3 turbines, or Allison aircraft engines to sing in harmony in a pursuit of putting the power to the track at over 10,000 horses. Wayne Castleberry, corporate motorsports sales and marketing for Lucas Oil, said, quote, Big River Steel is a great company to work with. They are an innovative company with over 500 company employees that are passionate race fans that support Lucas Oil Motorsports. We look forward to continuing their relationship for years to come, unquote. So some really awesome news there. Obviously, sponsor announcements are always really good. They're even better when they have such a good relationship and such positive things to say, like this announcement here with Big River Steel. So nothing but positivity and optimism with that, and very cool to hear all of that for sure. So a couple shows ago, we talked to you about Kyle Blight and some of the success that he has had with the Late Model Racing Western Australia events going on. Well, we can now update you and say that Kyle Blight is now the champion of that series this year. This coming from the Late Model Racing Western Australia Facebook page states that Blight is the champion. After hardly putting a foot wrong across the 2 nights of the Australian Late Model Championship, Kyle Blight has raced away to record a dominating win and grab that Australia number 1. Across the weekend, Blight set the quickest time in qualifying, won his opening heat, came third in his second, and then led every lap of his preliminary feature to be high points at the end of night 1. Returning for the second night, he started from the back of the field in his heat, which he raced through to win, then won 2 out of the 3 pole pursuit races to start the feature from pole position. Blight would go on to lead every lap, while behind him positions changed multiple times, but in the end it was Craig Vosbergen and Warren Oldfield who rounded out the podium once again, the same positions they both finished back in 2012/13. Joe Godsey was the best of the Americans, running second for a number of laps before coming home in 4th, while interstate visitor Ben Nicastri in a borrowed and unfamiliar car rounded out the top 5. They were followed by Michael Holmes, Ryan Halliday, Jamie Oldfield, Brad Blake, and Veronica McCann, who was on a charge from the B-Main to come home and round out the top 10. Congratulations to Kyle and his team on a well-deserved championship win. So that kind of sounds like a race event. It doesn't really sound like a whole championship. I could be wrong. It doesn't really specify. But either way, Kyle Blight, the 2020 Australian Late Model Championship winner, this past weekend? January, yeah, this past, well, yeah, I think it was in the weekend. This past weekend for the Late Model Racing Western Australia. Oh, let's see here. Transitioning over to sprint cars, Wayne Johnson in 2RC racing, or 2C racing. made an announcement this past week that they are going to go outlaw racing in 2020. There's an article coming from speedsport.com and says that Wayne Johnson and 2C Racing have committed to running the full World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series schedule. Johnson, a 48-year-old native of Oklahoma, has spent the last 10 years racing mainly with the Lucas Oil American Sprint Car Series and a 360 Sprint Car, while also dabbling in 410 Sprint Car events. This will be his first full-time season with the World of Outlaws. Johnson said, quote, "We stepped away from the ASCS 360 racing and went and raced with the World of Outlaws about half of the year last year and realized that if we want to be the best and build the team up for the future, the World of Outlaw Tour is where we need to be." Unquote. Team owner Todd Carlisle said, quote, "We have been wanting to go full-time racing with the World of Outlaws and we ultimately decided that now was the right opportunity." Unquote. Johnson and Carlisle have known each other for more than 25 years. Coming off an injury in 2010, Johnson spoke to Carlisle and his wife, Kelly, about starting a team. They joined forces in 2012 to start the team, while Carlisle taking over as the sole car owner in 2016, allowing Johnson to focus solely on driving. Johnson and the 2C Racing team will be competing for top rookie honors with the World of Outlaws. Johnson added in, quote, "If I decided I don't do this now, I'll regret that I never did. This last year, I've really focused on my health and feel like I'm probably in the best shape of my life at 48 and ready to take on the challenge." Unquote. The team is currently interviewing candidates for the crew chief position. Connor Nelson will work as the car chief, and Kenny Nolan will be the team's mechanic. So some awesome news there for Wayne Johnson and the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series. 2C Racing going to be following the entire tour this year with Wayne Johnson driving. A dream of his that he is very obviously very happy to chase down for 2020. Another sprint car team is forming, and this one is going to put Parker Price Miller behind the wheel of their machine. Just waiting for this article to load. Also from speedsport.com, it says veteran sprint car crew chief Philip Dietz and his wife Brooke have decided to form their own 410 sprint car team. Dietz will continue to serve as crew chief on the Jason Johnson Racing number 41 in the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series, while also managing his own sprint car program, which will run a limited schedule. Dietz has scored a pair of Knoxville Nationals victories as a crew chief and also earned 4 Lucas Oil American Sprint Car Series titles while serving as crew chief for the late Jason Johnson. The team has hired Parker Price Miller to wheel the number 14 sprint car in roughly 35 to 40 events, including the Jackson Nationals at the Jackson Motorplex, the Kings Royal at Eldora Speedway in Rossburg, Ohio, and the Knoxville Nationals at Knoxville Raceway. The first race of for the team will be the Dirt Car Nationals at Fallujah Speedway Park in Barberville, Florida on February 5th. Hobie Conway will work for the team as a tire specialist. The team is currently searching for a car chief. The team plans to utilize Maxim Racing chassis and Kistler Racing engines. So some cool news there. Dietz Motorsports is formed. Parker Price Miller, the driver. They are looking to compete in roughly 35 to 40 events, some big ones in 2020. This also just getting announced today, some pretty big news in the world of the All-Star Circuit of Champions, the Ollie's Bargain Outlet All-Star Circuit of Champions. The point fund has increased for the 2020 season. It has now gone up to $258,000, and the champion will earn $65,000. This coming straight from the AllStarSprint.com website. The 2020 Ollie's Bargain Outlet All-Star Circuit of Champions, presented by Mobil 1, boasts an impressive schedule of 55 events, 17 of which will award a winner's payout of at least $6,000. With an exciting slate comes a hefty point fund, as the 2020 All-Star Circuit of Champions point fund will now award $258,000 across the top 12 positions, including $65,000 for the championship team, a $58,000 increase from 2019. Kevin Rudeen has committed to sponsoring $50,000 of the increased fund. Kevin said, quote, "I'll be the first to admit that I've never liked points racing, but this past year was a lot of fun for me and my team. We had an awesome time at the All-Star Banquet in December, and I really like the way that Tony and his team do things with the series. I'm looking forward to 2020 with our partnership with the All-Stars. We'll be announcing details at a later date on our 2020 Race Rudeen Foundation race." Unquote. Not only will the series champion notice an impressive lift in the season-ending point fund, bumping up from $51,000 in 2019 to $65,000 in 2020, but the remaining 11 positions within the top 12 will also see an increase, including a $9,000 jump for second and third place, raising the payouts to $45,000 and $35,000 respectively. In addition, the fourth place payout will increase from $21,000 $28,000. Fifth place from $16,000 to $22,000. Or that was fifth, I'm sorry. This is sixth place, $11,000 to $15,000. Seventh place from $9,500 to $12,000. Eighth place from $8,000 to $10,000. Ninth place from $6,500 to $8,000. 10th place from $5,500 to $7,000. 11th place from $5,000 to $6,000. And 12th place from $4,500 to $5,000. Tony Stewart on this announcement said, quote, "This is awesome. A huge thank you goes out to Kevin Rudin. He took a chance with the All-Stars last year, having Corey Eliason driving full-time. Also put together a nice contingency package for the racers and sponsored a huge foundation race. Whenever we can give back to our racers, it puts a smile on my face." Unquote. Although not accumulating championship points toward the season any point fund, the All-Star Circuit of Champions will kick off their 2020 season with a 4-race stint in the Sunshine State, first invading the high-paced Fallujah Speedway Park near Barberville, Florida on Wednesday and Thursday, February 5th and 6th, followed by a 2-day visit to East Bay Raceway Park just south of Tampa on Monday and Tuesday, February 10th and 11th. The championship point season will activate officially on Friday and Saturday, April 10th and 11th, with a 2-day stay at the High Banks of Attica Raceway Park in Attica, Ohio. The Spring Nationals doubleheader will award $5,000 on each night. So some awesome news there for the Ollie's Bargain Outlet All-Star Circuit of Champions. They are getting more money in 2020. The season champions, $65,000. Total point fund for the top 11 or the top 12 positions will be $258,000. Alrighty. So the very last thing that I have to talk to you guys about, Madison International Speedway announced this past week that they are going to have 2 ARCA Midwest Tour Series events. Their races are going to be on Sunday, May 3rd, the Joe Shear Classic 200, and then on Friday, August 28th, the Howie Leto Classic 100. It looks like we do have a full schedule here. We do, yes. We do have the full 2020 ARCA Midwest Tour schedule, so we'll run that down for you real quick. We just mentioned the Joe Shear Classic 200 on Sunday, May 3rd. Not only will be the first race for Madison International Speedway, but will be the first race in the 2020 Tour. Race number 2, May 23rd, the Salute the Troops 100 at Jefferson Speedway. Then on June 14th, they will race at the Milwaukee Mile for the Milwaukee Mile 100. Saturday, July 11th, Wayne Carter Classic 100 by Rod Baker Ford and Ill Truck and Equipment at the Grundy County Speedway in Morris, Illinois. Saturday, July 25th, they will race at State Park Speedway in Wausau, Wisconsin. Tuesday, August 4th at the Wisconsin International Raceway. Saturday, August 22nd at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Friday, August 28th at Madison International Speedway, as we just mentioned. Saturday, September 5th at Dells Raceway Park. Sunday, October 11th, the Big Oktoberfest Race Weekend 200 at La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway in West Salem, Wisconsin. That will be their championship event. And then on Sunday, November 1st, they will race at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway for a non-points event. So that's the non-points official, technical season finale. And then their points season finale will happen on Sunday, October 11th, the Oktoberfest Race Weekend 200 at the La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway. So, my friends, that's all that we got. That's at least all that I have for you. So, it is now your job. What do we got? We only got one person in here. But for that one person that is here, if there is anything that you are looking to chit-chat about that has not been mentioned here on this show already, any racing news, racing events, racing results, any questions that you have for me, anything, something that you did this past weekend, something you're going to be doing this upcoming week, anything at all that you're looking to discuss here on this show, now is your time to do so. Oh, wait, time out. I knew that I had messed something up. I knew there was something that I had to pull up and I couldn't find it when I was going back, or I couldn't figure out what it was. There is one more thing that I had to chit-chat with you about. I have to scroll through and find it. I didn't pull it up initially, but it is on my list. And that is the Indy 500 ride that is currently being worked on once again for Fernando Alonso. This is an article coming from Racer.com. Michael Andretti has been working diligently to bring Fernando Alonso back to the Indianapolis 500, and it sounds like a deal is imminent. Andretti said, quote, "It's not done yet, but it's looking pretty good. We want it to happen, and I've just got to figure out how to get it funded. I think we can find a sponsor, but do I roll the dice, sign him, and then hope to get it funded? I really enjoy working with the guy, and I want to make it happen," unquote. Andretti told Racer 2 months ago he wanted to run the two-time world champion, but the big hurdle was getting Honda's blessing. McLaren and Alonso parted company with Honda in Formula One with hard feelings after being criticized by the team and driver for lack of performance. Last May, in a sole effort by McLaren, Alonso had to run Chevrolet, but the engine had nothing to do with him failing to qualify. It's believed that Andretti has discussed Indy specifically with Honda and hasn't yet met any resistance, but there hasn't been any conversation yet regarding other races besides Indianapolis. Andretti would go on to say, quote, "We talked about it, and it's possible, but nothing before Indianapolis. I don't want to do anything to hurt our other efforts, but it would be great for the series," unquote. McLaren president Zak Brown had hoped to run Alonso in a third car this May for the newly formed Aero McLaren SP team, but told Racer recently the popular Spaniard has his blessings if he goes to Andretti, where he ran so strong in 2017. So looks like we're trying to get Fernando Alonso back to the Indianapolis 500. They're closing in on it. Not yet completely announced and set in stone, but Fernando Alonso trying to come back to the Indianapolis 500 and would be doing so with Michael Andretti if it all works out. All right. Now it is time for the viewer segment. So anything that you want to present to me, questions, racing events that you attended, something that you're looking forward to, anything that was not mentioned on this show, now is your opportunity to bring it up, and we can chit-chat about it before we call it a night. Wildchild R19 stepping in here, throwing out the Formula One schedule that was released, I believe, today? I think it was. Let's see here. Ba-bam! The Formula One, they announced their 2020 race schedule. Wow, this is a tiny graphic. But it is there. So, we've got $22 events on the 2020. I literally just looked at the schedule and counted it. And then the one tiny little bit of text that is actually attached to this article says the number, and I just wasted 6 seconds of my life. Awesome. 22 events for the Formula One schedule in 2020. Kicks off with the Grand Prix of Australia, March 13th through the 15th, and then they will go to Bahrain, March 20th through the 22nd. Vietnam, April 3rd through the 5th. China, April 7th through the 19th. The Netherlands, May 1st through the 3rd. Spain, May 8th through the 10th. Monaco, May 21st through the 24th. Azerbaijan, I believe is how you properly pronounce that, June 5th through the 7th. Canada, June 12th through the 14th. France, June 26th through the 28th. Austria, July 3rd through the 5th. Great Britain, July 17th through the 19th. Grand Prix of Hungary, July 31st through August 2nd. Belgium, August 28th through the 30th. Grand Prix of Italy, September 4th through the 6th. Grand Prix of Singapore, September 18th through the 20th. Grand Prix of Russia, September 25th through the 27th. Japan, October 9th through the 11th. The Grand Prix of the United States, October 23rd through the 25th. Mexico, October 31st or October 30th through November 1st. Brazil, November 13th through the 15th, and then they will wrap up their season in Abu Dhabi, November 27th through the 29th. A couple starred events here. About it for the Grand Prix of Monaco, they will have a free practice on Thursday for that weekend. The Grand Prix of Japan, the race start schedule will be confirmed in the next few weeks. And then for the Grand Prix of the United States, daylight saving time ends in UK/Europe on Saturday night/Sunday morning. Okay, that doesn't really matter for us. So that Grand Prix of Japan event is the only one that doesn't have any actual dates or any times yet. Every other event has all of the practice and qualifying race times attached to them already. They're just waiting to do that for that one. So a 22 race schedule for Formula One in 2020. Lots of racing there for Formula One. Their season will kick off in, well, actually, their first practice session is exactly 2 months from today, the Grand Prix of Australia on March 13th. So as I had mentioned at the start of the show, it's Chili Bowl week. Chili Bowl starting off tonight. You'll have 5 nights of preliminary action tonight, Monday through Friday, and then of course it'll be Alphabet Soup Day on Saturday, and which leads into the main event. Christopher Bell, the defending winner of the Chili Bowl, he has won the last 3 in a row now. Is that correct? Now I have to confirm. Yes, the last 3 years in a row, Christopher Bell has won. Rico Abreu was back-to-back before that. And then Brian Clausen, the winner, back in 2014. So this is obviously an extremely exciting time for race fans alike with the Chili Bowl getting ready to start up. So we'll have plenty to talk about with that, of course. I'm probably going to be doing it the wrong way, but going to be watching a little bit here and there on some streams that I shouldn't actually be watching. But I guess it's okay, right? Maybe, not really. I don't know. So yeah, it's such a nice time, such a nice time to get to, or just a good feeling to get to racing, or get to a point where racing just really big time picks up and gets busy. I know I'm 3 weeks away from trying to fly down to Florida, so I'm like mind blown about that realization, and it's just going to be wow. I'm looking forward to it, but it's like, holy cow, I have a lot of things to accomplish in 3 weeks before I get to Florida. That's for absolutely sure. Another thing that Wild Child is bringing up to us, the schedule announcements for the Super Late Model Racing Series. Super in-depth name right there. Could not get any more basic. The 2020 Super Late Model Racing Series schedules were announced this past week. They run 2 different series, one on the West, one on the East. The East Series has an earlier start. They kick their season off on Saturday, March 28th at the Scotland County Speedway in Memphis, Missouri. Pretty lengthy schedules for both of these series. So if you're in the Midwest region, highly would recommend attending some of these races or following it around if you can, because this is pretty cool. It's lengthy, lots of different racetracks, and a few different states as well. So yeah, the East Series kicks off Saturday, March 28th at Scotland County Speedway. They race once in April, Friday, April 10th at the Davenport Speedway. Then they take a near 2-month break, and then they go nuts in June. June 9th at Marshalltown, June 10th at Stewart Speedway, June 11th at Hamilton County Speedway, then June 18th at Wapello County Speedway, June 19th at CJ Speedway, June 20th at 34 Raceway, June 21st Quad City Raceway, June 26th Lafayette County Speedway, June 27th Independence Speedway, June 28th Mason City Motor Speedway. I'm sorry. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 races in June after taking a near 2-month break. Then they race only once in July, a few more races in August, a few races in September, and their season finale will happen Saturday, October 3rd at Quincy Raceway in Quincy, Illinois. As far as the West Series goes, way more races on the West, and they start a little bit later. They race a little more frequently. But it must be a conjunction type ordeal because a lot of the dates that they aren't racing the East is not. They kick off their schedule Friday and Saturday, April 3rd and 1st at the I-80 Speedway in Greenwood, Nebraska. And then they have a 3-day stretch, April 16th through the 18th, where they will race at Stewart Speedway, Marshalltown Speedway, and Hamilton County Speedway. 2 days in a row to kick off the month of May, the 1st and the 2nd at Rapid Speedway and Off-Road Speedway. Some pretty cool sounding track names. May 9th at Adams County Speedway, May 29th Lakeside Speedway, May 30th Central Missouri Speedway. They do the majority of that busy schedule in June that I mentioned with the East. They race way more in July than what the East does. July 2nd at US 30 Speedway, July 11th Junction Motor Speedway, Boone County Raceway on the 12th, Shelby County Speedway July 18th, I-80 Speedway July 22nd, July 31st at Lakeside Speedway. 4 races in August, and then they have 4 races in September, where their points season will end on September 12th at the I-80 Speedway in Greenwood, Nebraska. But their last race of the season will happen at Knoxville Raceway on Saturday, September 19th. That is a non-points race, and it is also invite only. You can check out the full schedules and more information about that on the Super Late Model Racing Series Facebook page. It's Super Late Model Racing, and then in parentheses SLMR, and then Series. So they got those 2 schedules posted up there. I feel like this would be something that could replace the Super Dirt Car Series for me if I was out in that area, because there's a ton of races. They travel around and they race at a bunch of different tracks. Let's see. At least for this East, you got Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, Nebraska. All right, that looks like it's it there. And then on the West, Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri. And that's it. So there you go. Got 5 states. There's probably 20, 30 races here. Absolutely. Where are my diehard race chasers at? Chase this series. Report to me. Tell me what you got. Give me some pictures. Gosh, now that makes me want to do this. Now I wish I lived in the Midwest this summer. Wouldn't that be cool? Going somewhere completely new for a few months and then just going to a shit ton of racetracks you've never been to. That'd be a blast. That'd be an absolute riot. The things that I want to do as a race chaser. If only. Alrighty, my friends. Well, I believe that's where we're going to wrap it up for the night. So I want to thank all of you guys for tuning on in. If you caught it live, I want to thank you for watching on YouTube. If you're watching the replay on YouTube, for those of you that are live here in the chat and you're not already connected to us on the other social media platforms, you now have them in the chat. You've got our YouTube channel and our Facebook group. The Facebook group is where we talk racing all week. Just about, well, not everything, but a lot of what is posted in that group comes onto this show. So if you want to have an impact on what is talked about on the show, join our Facebook group. We talk racing, we talk show, we talk anything and everything in the racing world. So make sure to join us over there. If you're not already connected to the YouTube channel, make sure to do that. We put all of the episodes up on YouTube, and you're able to watch all of them in its entirety. So whether you missed part of a show or all of a show, or if you want to relive a show, check out our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to do that as well. And, of course, if you're watching on YouTube and you want to come out and have interaction with the show live, we do these shows every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Twitch link is down in the description. So all you got to do is click the link, follow the channel, turn your notifications on. You'll get a notification anytime we come live, which is the same time every week, in case you forget. But that is when we do our live shows over here on Twitch. I will be getting back on the race chasing spectrum this weekend. I probably shouldn't with my trip to Florida coming up, but I'm going to do it anyway. I will be heading north, even further northeast than what I already am. I will be going to the Riverside Speedway in Groveton, New Hampshire, formerly known as Speedway 51, for their annual Winter Blast 100 event. It is an enduro event that they run in the snow. I was at that race last year, and it was pretty good. Ridiculous amount of cars. Kind of got a little messy with the way that they built the track. It ended up getting blocked and was sloppy, and we ended up leaving before the event even finished. I don't even think they completed the whole thing. I think they called it early because of the time that it was taking. So I'm expecting another extremely successful event this upcoming weekend. Oh my God. Weather for Saturday, 80% chance of snow and a high of 18 degrees. The day before the race, Friday, it is going to be a high of 6 degrees. So I guess I may need to pay attention to their Facebook page just in case they decide to cancel the event or postpone it. So I'm going to make them see first in my newsfeed. They already are see first. I guess I already did that. So yeah, I need to pay attention to that just in case they decide to change anything with the weather being as bad as it is going to be. So I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's my plan for the weekend. That'll be my 4th race of the year. I will take next weekend off, and then I probably should take that following weekend off instead of going to Atlantic City for the indoor race because it would give me just another weekend to work before going to Florida. So I'm trying to figure all this Florida stuff out. In a perfect world, I would book my flight this upcoming week. But I don't know. I still have bills to pay. I still have a lot to accomplish in the 3 weeks before I go to Florida, so we'll see how that all works. I also need to start thinking about what I'm going to do for the show while I'm down in Florida. Maybe I can put some of my stream graphics and stuff on a flash drive and just bring it with me, and maybe I can build it on my friend's computer at his house and maybe still do the shows while I'm down there and maybe have him join in with me. But we'll see. I'll think things through. I'll talk to him and we'll figure it out. So, but yes, I will stop rambling now and I'll get off here and let the rest of you enjoy the rest of your night or day or morning, whatever it is, whenever you're watching this. So thank you again for the support. Make sure to check out the YouTube, the Twitch, and the Facebook if you're not already connected to any of those 3. Find some racing to enjoy this week. There's going to be plenty of it. If you can't be in Tulsa, Oklahoma for the Chili Bowl, every single night is being streamed on Racing Boys. So go there, throw some money at it, and watch some racing. You'll be able to catch it live on TV Saturday night. Supercross again Saturday night. The Wild West Shootout is going to continue at Arizona Speedway. There might be another Extreme Dirt Car Series race coming up this weekend. I think that's true. I think there's another one this weekend. Don't quote me on it. But at least the next one should be coming up pretty soon. So we'll definitely have more to talk about, and it's one more week closer to Speed Week starting in Florida, so I'm sure we'll get more news and information about some things that will happen there, and have plenty to talk about on that spectrum as well. Thank you again, guys. Continue to share the love. Let this grow. Let this blossom into a beautiful meadow of racing discussion, and we'll see you here next Monday night. Thank you for all that you do. Hope you have a great week. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you right back here next Monday night for another edition of the Chasing the Racing podcast. Bye-bye.